welcome back to your virtual tea time. My name is Tori, and today we have Coach MJ with us, Miss Competitive, MaryJo McCloskey. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me, Tori.
I am so excited to have you on. You have a brand new book called When Girls Win, which could be my most favorite title I've seen in a long time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And before we dive into, I have a bunch of odds and ends questions because you started the women's golf program over at George Fox University. So I have a couple odds and ends questions about that.
Okay.
And then obviously we're going to dive into what the book has to offer, which is so much. But I want to ask you about the writing process. When did you begin writing? What called you to do it? Tell me all the things about writing a book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great question. Thanks for asking, actually. So I started writing. A lot of people thought I just whipped this out after we won the national championship, but it was not like that.
Yeah.
I actually had finished the book before the national championship. And then after we won in May, I was like, okay, now I have to add a chapter about that. But I started the first COVID year, 2020, and I listened to this podcast that Matthew McConaughey was on, and he said, was talking about this is a horrible time, what we're going through. But he said, at some point, we're going to get through it. And he said, are you just going to keep hitting next episode on Netflix, or are you going to do something? And I started thinking, oh my gosh, what can I do? I'm stuck at home, but I shouldn't feel stuck because I'm able to be at home and I'm safe. And so what can I be doing? And I just am always about giving back and how can I serve others? And I just started thinking, I have this story, and I started reflecting, and I said, I want to help other girls and women out there. And I have my team that I can help, but I want to help others. And I started thinking, I want to help others do it quicker than what it took me, because I've been coaching for over 20 years and I've learned so much, and I just wanted to get it out there, so. And then I heard another podcast. So I'm a big podcast person.
Oh, I love it. I am too. I love it.
Yeah. Seth Godin. And he said, and then after I listened to this one, Seth Godin, the marketeer, he's written all these marketing books. He was talking about, can you write a sentence? Can you write a paragraph? And I was like, yeah. And then he goes, then you can write a book. And then that's when I thought, I'm going to start writing. And my motivation, being the competitive person that I am, I wrote one chapter and I left it for my husband to read in the morning and said, I'm going to try to write. And I wrote this chapter and I left it for him to read, and he gave me a B-. And I'm like, that's it. I'm going all the way with this. I'm not taking a B-. So yeah, that's how it all went down.
But you just self-proclaimed yourself. Well, before we pressed the record button today, you self-proclaimed yourself as not a writer. So how did this process come? And, I mean, we're talking 3 years here. So how did you structure it? Did you make yourself write on certain days? Tell me about the process of it.
Okay, the process of it. Yes, definitely. I'm not a writer. And even my sister's actually a writer. She truly is a writer. She's a journalist. And so my brother was asking me, why are you writing? You're not a writer. So I was told I'm not a writer. But I thought, if I have all these stories to share. So I just started writing down, what would people be interested in? What would help others? And I was also writing down, what are the traits of champions? What are things that are really could be of interest out there and that people would say, wow. So I just kind of put all these, you can't tell every story. I have a million stories that aren't in the book, So I had to just figure out, break it down. And then I didn't put them in order to begin with. My sister basically helped me immensely. And she just said, just go write a story and then go write one of your other stories. So I kind of did it like that. And then in the end, my editor helped me put it all together, and we went pretty chronological, but not exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
how it just went down. I mean, I'm actually shocked right now that it's a book.
Yeah. And if you're watching it on YouTube, again, all the podcasts are video also, I should say most of them. And I'm showing the cover of the book, When Girls Win, on there. And so is this your 2023 team right here that won the title? Oh my God. What a great photo.
We still can't believe it.
What a great photo. And so how about down to publishing? Did you self-publish it? Did you go look for a publisher? What was that process like?
Yeah. So I basically did, I would recommend you start looking for a publisher before you're so close to being done. And I waited too long pretty much to look for a publisher. And I had opportunities for a publisher. But in fact, there were three that were really, really interested, but I didn't like the timeline on it because they were saying one wasn't going to be able to publish it until the end of this year, and the other one wasn't going to be able to publish it until summer of 2025.
Wow.
And I just said, I have this story, I'm putting it out there now. And so I went the indie route, and First Light Publishing was born.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Fantastic.
That's my husband's company now.
Surprise, honey.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get in first and foremost the story of you starting the women's golf program at George Fox University. Like what an incredible thing. How did that come about? And tell us that journey.
Our team was the last women's team to join the conference. Actually, first we started with the women's team, which was great. We were the last to offer golf in our conference. And so basically they had contacted me. I worked for another school in the conference, and they asked me about moving over and starting this program. And I drove out to George Fox, and I didn't know much about George Fox. And it's in this great little area. I call it a banana belt to my recruits because I'm like, it's always sunny in Newburgh. It's beautiful. They give me a really bad time about that today. But anyway, just like love the people. The people make the difference at George Fox. And I just thought, and I love our president. Our president is all about athletics, and he really sees the strength in athletics and what can, result in participating. And so I just felt really confident that we could build a strong program there. So I just went for it. Yeah.
And what kind of hurdles did you see right off the bat?
Well, right off the bat, I already knew from being in the conference that it was going to be difficult because being in the Northwest Conference, we are part of this region that includes schools in California and in Texas. And so I'm like, how are we going to compete basically with these sunshine areas when we do have a lot of rain here? And we didn't have an indoor center or anything like that. In fact, we didn't have an indoor center until 11 years later. So I had to figure out ways to say, first of all, I have to draw people to this school and say, we are going to be a really strong program. I'm going to get this done. And then secondly, I had to figure out ways to practice. And I did draw a lot of talented golfers, but not a lot of experienced golfers. So it's like, how can we match up? How can we get to the level that these other players are at? And that's when I just started getting into mental toughness, and we're going to beat them with our minds. That's what we did.
It's like same drive that you had to write your book it's the same for everything. You had to start this program and get it, whatever hurdles you had. It's like, okay, we can figure this out. So a couple questions for the college coach. Okay. What's a typical schedule for a college golfer? So George Fox University is a D3 school.
D3, correct.
Yeah. So what does a typical schedule look like for a golfer?
So a typical schedule for D3 is probably going to be maybe a little bit different than D1, but I try to run it like D1. Like, you're committed, you're in this championship program. These are the expectations. So we practice pretty much every day. I mean, we have our breaks, but it's not like twice a week kind of thing. We're practicing. We have a schedule to follow, and then we have tournaments. So many tournaments. Like this season, I believe we have 6 tournaments this season. So we plan for the tournaments, and then we have a day off after the tournament, and then we just get right back at it. So usually our practices are like 4 to 6 type practices, but then I expect players to be practicing on their own. And we have an indoor center now, so they can go to the indoor center and work on their games indoor center as well.
How do you tackle the whole short game thing with the only
I know.
inside?
Okay. You know how I tackle that? You can chip and you can putt when you're inside. And every year I tell them the same story. There was a girl that played for St. Mary's at Notre Dame, and she came to our tournament that we host in Phoenix every year. She had not even been on grass until March. Our tournament is always in March in Phoenix. She had not been on grass because of the snow. They had so much snow that year. So all she was able to do was pretty much putt and do a little chipping indoors. She set a course record, 65. She was unbelievable, so hot on the putting green. I couldn't believe it. And I just said, we're using her as an example from now on. You can get a lot done inside. If you have the right mindset going in, you can get a lot accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of listeners listening who are snowbound right now saying there's nothing I can do on my golf game during this off season. And there absolutely is. What would be your biggest tip for working on your golf game indoors? And again, you're talking to the female golfer, that's a more recreational golfer and semi-competitive. So they're definitely not collegiate players right now. So what would be your biggest tip when they go into an indoor facility and how to tackle that?
And how to tackle it? I would say, everyone wants to go straight to the simulator and work on the simulator, but make sure you're doing some other things too. Make sure you're doing some putts. And the best thing you can do is work on the short putts and work on those putts. Okay, now, Tori, here's the thing. Can't tell you all my secrets today because we're trying to win another championship.
I understand. You can keep some to yourself.
Okay. Go in there and work on some short putts, but with pressure. Don't just go through the motions. Even if you're a recreational golfer, just going and hitting like some 3-foot putts and pretending your friends are around. And this is for the $10 Nassau or whatever.
Not even the dollar.
Yeah,
I mean,
the dollar. And go in there and then do it. And the more you do that, the more you're going to feel ready. And when the sun comes out, you're going to oh, wow, I've been doing this. I feel really good. And putting's 40% of the game. So why are you not spending time there?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So then back to my question. So golf is really an individual sport. So how do you bring these girls together and make it a team? That seems like a big challenge to me. I don't know why, but it just seems like, again, these girls have been competing on their own for so long. And it's like you have to bring that team atmosphere, in the facility, in practices as a team. So how do you take care of that?
Yeah, that's really where we had to start with, our culture from the beginning. And I was really fortunate. I mentioned this in the book that I had 2 of my first players who were basketball players. I call them ballers in the national championship program of basketball at our school. Women's basketball was really strong. In fact, our team in 2009 won the national championship. And so they were just really dedicated, really committed athletes. And they maybe were better on the court than they were on the course, but they really brought the right mentality and that whole team spirit. And so I feel like I was really fortunate to have that team spirit from the get-go. Like, this is about team. This isn't about any one individual. And so it took time to get to where we're at today, but definitely it's amazing. In fact, it gives me chills just thinking about my team. For example, one of our players, she tied for medalist in 2022 at the national championship. And she tied for medalist and she was going to be in a playoff. And when she got done, she said, how'd the team do? How'd the team do? And I said, we don't have time to worry about the team, Allison. You're going to be in a playoff for medalists. And she was like, what? But it's just about the team. And we also have another current player, Mackenzie. That was Allison, Mackenzie Toole. Mackenzie won the 2021 national championship. And Mackenzie, the whole time, I mean, she had a big lead. It would look pretty good, like she was going to win. And but she was like, how's the team? How's the team doing? Tell me about the team. It was like she didn't even really care. She cared. She was fighting for the team. And honestly, we won this national championship because everyone was fighting for the team. They were just like, I can't give up. I'm not giving up because I'm here for the team. And it's all about the team. So it's really in our culture that we've developed.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that says a lot about you and the leader of the team. So I really appreciate that. How about social media? How do the players deal with social media and having that incorporated into their athletics and academics nowadays?
Yeah, social media. In fact, I think that social media probably helped me decide to write the book, because I do think I'm kind of not directly answering the question, but I want to start with saying that social media has hurt self-esteem of a lot of girls and self-confidence. And I've seen people looking at their social media or telling me, oh, I need to transfer schools because my friend over here is having more fun. And I'm like, how do you know she's having more fun? Well, you should see her social media feed. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. So, I do feel like social media has taken a toll, and I try to turn that around. In fact, we're working on something right now. Okay, I'll share another little secret, but I'm trying to tell everyone, we're calling it the Daily Fives. And basically, I want them spending 5 minutes doing 5 different things that are like meditating, journaling, those kind of things. And it's 5 different things for 5 minutes. And I said, you guys, that's 25 minutes. Set your phone down and do these 5 things, like stretching, the meditating, and journaling. I won't tell you all 5.
Yeah. But allowing yourself to be fully present for those 25 minutes.
Fully present for those 25 minutes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to just work on that.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a challenge for, I bet, a lot of people, not even just college players, myself included,
Me too. Yeah.
Just focus on these 5 things, set your timer and get it done. That's great. That's a great idea. How about travel? What does travel look like for a golf team? And when is your golf season? Is it just spring, or is there a fall season too?
Oh, there's fall season too. We're a 2-season sport. So it's fall and spring. Our main season, I kind of call it our main season because we usually have more tournaments, is in the spring. But we start up right when we get back to school at the end of August. And then we go until pretty much the end of October. And then we get into more like strength training and that through November, December, January. And then we're starting up right now. In fact, we had our first, we call it a home tournament qualifier. And that was just on Sunday. So that was the first time I was seeing our players in action. And our first tournament's at the end of February.
Yeah. How about when the college players transition out of college? And in my experience, I've met a lot of former college players that, get burnt out with the sport. They've been playing it their whole life. By the time college gets done, they are done with golf altogether. And then you have the college players that continue to go on to either go to the professional level or try and play elite amateur golf. And how do you help personally with those senior players that are transitioning out of school?
Yeah, that's important. That's actually an important piece. And it's definitely an important piece at our school or for a championship program, because they've received all this attention. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. And I actually saw that happen in the very beginning, because one of my basketball players was a star, and she was telling me her senior year, what am I going to do? Like, now what do I do? And so I don't know. It's just, encourage them, not while they're playing, I guess, to encourage them while they're playing, that this isn't just about a score. This isn't just about you as an athlete. It's you as a person. So I try to instill in them, your identity isn't based on any score or because you're an athlete, so that they realize that they have all this other value to offer the world. And I think as long as like you're going in that direction, then you're going to be successful in whatever you end up doing, and that you can use the skills that you learn through your sport to, go into whatever you end up doing. I actually had this one girl on my team. It was really pretty funny. She wanted to quit before she graduated because she wasn't making it in the lineup. And she said, why am I even playing? And I said, you're learning so many skills. You're going to take these skills with you, after you graduate. And she said, what am I learning? I mean, my chipping is horrible, whatever. I'm like, no, it's perseverance. You're learning perseverance. You're learning, commitment to a team and everything. Anyway, long story short, I said, you're going to thank me. Someday you're going to send me a text and you're going to thank me because you're going to realize that this helped you. And actually 5 years later, she sent me this text. She became a lawyer. She passed the bar, and she was applying for this assistant DA position. And she said that the DA asked her a few questions, and then he saw that she was a golfer. And then that's all he wanted to do was talk about golf.
Yeah, not surprised at all.
And she got the job. And she said, he didn't even know anything else except that I was this golfer. But she did say, all those things that she learned as a golfer really helped her. And actually, we recently have a player that just got into medical school. And she's actually the player I talk about in my book in one of the last chapters, second to the last chapter, the biology major. Mm-hmm. And she said she's taking all these traits that she learned, especially the mental toughness side of it. And she said, it's going to help me. I know it's going to help me in medical school, and it's going to help me become a great golfer. So we try to talk about identity a lot as a team, and that let go of this outcome that we're all chasing. Like, oh, we feel so much better when we shoot a 72 as opposed to a 79 or an 80 or whatever. Like, why do we feel better? Like, stop, let go of that,
Like, I am a better person because I shot a 72 today instead of a 79. I mean, how many people can relate to that? And relative to what your scores you like, it could be an 80 instead of a 90 or a 91 instead of a 95. We all have those scores that we tie our, I don't know if it's identity or self-worth to, and really trying to separate that. Like, no, those have nothing to do with each other whatsoever.
Right. It's in your heart. It's your values. It's your faith. It's all of that. It's not this score. What always cracks me up is the difference between like a 90 and an 89 or an 80 and a 79. Yeah. 79 I shot a 79 today, so much better than an 80. What is that? Don't you agree?
So a little story. Yesterday I played golf, and it was a state medallion round, which won't mean anything to anyone other than it's a stroke play day that you have to hole out. Like, there's no gimmies, there's no pickups, there's no max scores. Okay. Every shot counts. So I ended up shooting an 80 yesterday, but I got an 8 on a hole. So that is going to be adjusted to a 7 once they post my score. So I was like, oh, well, it's an adjusted 79. So it's much better. Like, that actually went through my mind as I'm driving home from the golf club. Like, oh, I shot an 80. Oh, but actually it was an adjusted 79 because I went over my limit on one hole. So it's a crazy mind game this golf has on you. But, and you say it out loud like that and you laugh at yourself, but it's real. Those are the things about golf, and it is what it is.
That's why we play.
Exactly. Okay, so let's dive into this book. Again, When Girls Win, Mental Toughness Tips to Elevate Your Performance. I mean, just that in itself, that's the subtitle to this book. Mental Toughness Tips to Elevate Your Performance. Like, where can I sign up for that? I think everyone wants, needs, all of that. So we have 6 topics that we're going to go through today. So let's get it started. So first and foremost, emotional scale and how to get back into your highest performance state. So what do you have for that?
Okay. Well, I talked about that in the book. And so I think just kind of giving you a story would be great for your listeners or viewers. Yeah. Okay. So I just saw this emotional scale that Esther Hicks with Abraham Hicks, she's a motivational speaker, had put together, and it's a list of 22 emotions, and she kind of put it in order. She did put it in order, starting with like your highest vibration down to your lowest. And I got to open the book to just see for a second so at the top is joy. And then at the, bottom is fear and grief. And so I passed it out to our team. And I was just like, wow, we deal with so many emotions when we play golf. Like, in 4 hours, it's amazing where our emotions can flood. And so I was thinking about it, and I thought, you know what? Look at the scale, you guys. And in this next tournament, I really want you to think, really become aware of where your emotions are and keep trying to get back to joy, because joy is really the highest vibration that helps you, get that better energy in and help you perform at a higher level. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll give it a go. And I thought, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. And it worked. And one of our players had a rough patch. Like, she had a bogey, and then she had a double, and I think another bogey. And she said, all of a sudden she was like, I am, low on the scale. And I was looking on the scale. So she was down at like 16 on the scale, which is discouragement. And she was really feeling discouraged. And that's the point where you can really kind of lose it and say, I don't even have it today. And you don't walk into the pro shop, but you're like, you might as well, because you don't have it. You're just done.
Yeah. You
and
just
so instead,
give up, essentially.
Give up.
Yeah.
Exactly. You've given up in your mind. And so she said she thought in her head, I'm going to think about that scale. I'm not going to go straight to joy, but how can I get to a higher vibration? And then she remembered that 5 was optimism. So she was like, I've worked really hard. I should be optimistic. And so she climbed all that way up to the optimism, maybe it was number 6, which is hopeful. And then she went to optimum, and she had it in her bag, and she was on fire. And I'm not saying that just following the scale, you're going to go out there and then have a bunch of birdies, but she had like 3 birdies in a row, and she ended up finishing the tournament in second, 1 stroke out of first. And all because she became aware and moved her vibration and started feeling better. And then great things started happening to her out there. And I think there's huge value to that. And so we do talk about it, but you know what the real superpower is in all of this? It's self-awareness.
Yeah.
So your real superpower is being aware, because some people are going down the scale and don't even realize, you don't even realize that you're so stuck. And I played golf some this summer, not a lot, not as much as I would like, but I would be out there with some of the ladies, and I would hear things like, I need a calculator today to add up my score. And it would just crack me up, some of the things like that. Or if I don't stop 3-putting, whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, we got to get you up the scale quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So this is a learned skill, I feel. And I think that is what's missed sometimes, because if you're really trying to become aware of this emotional scale on the golf course, first of all, if you've never tried it before, it might not feel natural, or, this is a learned skill. Like, you're going to get better at it in time. Like, especially if there's constantly heated or getting disappointed in yourself or giving up a lot, then you have to learn to be aware of it and then start turning it around. And like you said, It wasn't like she didn't go from that low end of the scale all the way to joy fast. It's like trying to find just those small steps back in the right direction.
Right. Exactly. And I was going to mention that, mental toughness isn't something, becoming mentally stronger doesn't just happen overnight. Like, you just, okay, here's your scale. I'm going to do that. And that's going to work. And I'm going to have all these birdies. It just doesn't work like that. But it's really, working towards putting your mind in that really good spot and having a really strong mindset whenever you play, that's where you need to be.
Yesterday's round, I started out double, so double bogey. And on both holes, I had a chunked wedge shot that went into the water, okay, on both holes. And I texted a friend shortly after, and I said, wow, golf is really testing me lately. Like, golf is I'm being tested right now because, again, I am growing more aware of what I am telling myself while I am golfing. And so I could have, and I'm really trying to be aware of my reactions too. Like the 3-foot putt that I missed. Okay, how are you going to react to that? Or, because again, your body doesn't know if you're calm afterwards, your body will take that in, or if you're angry, your body will also take that in. And we know anger doesn't do any good. So I'm just becoming more aware of this. And it's like, I've had a lot of rounds lately that I've been tested, and it's like, okay, put this stuff to work. Let's see how you do. So,
okay. One suggestion I would give you on that, like when the missed putt, more acceptance. So already be accepting in advance. If anything happens, no matter what, I'm just going to accept it.
Yeah.
And move to the next shot.
Yeah.
The quicker you let it go, it's over. There's nothing you can do. You have to be on to the next shot.
Yep. And moving on. And know that too. I'm sure there's been a time that you've had a slow start and you were able to ramp it up more during the round. So it's like, look back at those occasions like, oh, it doesn't matter. Moving on.
It doesn't matter. Exactly. In fact, I have a story on that. Our first player to become National Player of the Year, and it was in 2013, I think. that same year, she was struggling with starting out slow. And Dottie Pepper happened to be coming to town to talk about her new children's book that she had just done. And so Dottie, I was going to this reception thing and I told her, I'm going to meet Dottie Pepper. What do you want me to ask her? And she said, ask her what to do when you start out slow. Like, what do you do? So I remember being in the line to have my book signed. And I said, Dottie, I coach a team. What do you do when you start out slow? And Dottie was just laughing. And she goes, welcome to the world of golf. Like, that's just part of golf. Yeah. And she was just laughing about it. And so she just said, sometimes you don't go into golf and you just, like Michael Jordan, he didn't start out in the first minute, just like I'm winning it in the first minute. Yeah. You just to find your rhythm and just keep thinking, I'm finding my rhythm. But knowing that you could have 3 birdies in a row, but I'm finding my rhythm and anything can happen.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So that was very.
And same goes for the other way around. I mean, you could have a hot start and then blow a couple holes late in the round. I mean, it's like you have to constantly keep that focus and presentness of your round.
Yeah. 2 things I want to mention on that. When the magic is happening and it's going, we usually do the opposite thing that we need to do. What do we do?
Oh gosh. Ooh.
It's the magic's happening. It's going. It's really great. It's going to be your best round ever. What do we do?
Probably look into the future too much, like lose our focus on on what we're really supposed to be focusing on, which is the next shot. And not
the next shot, right? So we get into focus and we kind of put on the brakes. Yeah. We try to protect. Like I've got to protect.
Oh, I see where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to protect this score today. And so now I'm thinking about outcome and I'm trying to protect.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've done that, but I've done that a bazillion times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the opposite is when, like you've made these mistakes, like I got to make up for it. I got to hit this shot under this tree, over this bunker, onto the green, stop it on the green and make that putt. You know what I mean?
I am going to do the 1 out of 100 shots that I've never done before.
And instead, that is where we talk about patience. And that's where you really have to be patient and say, yeah, I have to be patient. It's coming. Good things are going to come. Something good's going to happen here, and just stay patient and wait for it. Absolutely. But we do the opposite. And the best amateurs know how to step on the gas, man. When the magic is happening, just like step on the gas, next shot. Yeah. But when the magic isn't happening, stay patient. The magic is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Next up, embracing pressure. And I obviously wrote down the quote that could be one of my favorite quotes ever. Pressure is a privilege by Billie Jean King, or Billie Jean King said that. I mean, pressure is a privilege. Pressure is a privilege. It's like you have to keep telling yourself that, because sometimes like pressure is the enemy. I feel like sometimes women run away from pressure. Like, oh, that club championship makes me feel too uncomfortable. Why would I sign up for that? Or this big tournament has players that are much better than me. Why would I sign up for that? Why would I embrace the pressure? Well, why would we?
Good, because you want to see how great you can become. The only way you can see how great you can become is facing the pressure. And if you run from it, it just gets worse, or you don't get to see how good you can become.
Oh my God. So if you run from it, you just get worse. Sorry, I had to take that in.
It gets, yeah.
If
you run, it gets worse. Mm-hmm. It just piles up. Yeah, you just have to embrace the pressure. And, I loved Dr. David Cook. He was the first sports psychologist I mentioned that I met at Pumpkin Ridge when he was in town. And he wrote the book, 7 Days in Utopia. And he said, you have to go through the heat to get to the trophy presentation. So in order to get to the trophy presentation, you have to face that interference that comes in. You have to face those things that are telling you maybe you're not good enough, or maybe you're afraid to be successful, or whatever your fears are, those are coming in. And so he said, what I liked that you said earlier about you're learning how to be stronger in those moments. So we're not born with mental toughness. We're learning how to do it, as we go, and how to handle this interference that comes in and wants to, derail us and bring us down.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Did you have a player on your team that had a devastating loss that took her a while to get over? Or some, like, I hate to use the word choke. Like, did you have a player that thought she always choked? Or if you had a player that said that, how would you approach that?
Well, I would say we need to change that right now.
Yeah.
Because you're just feeding that into your subconscious. Mm-hmm. And then in a clutch situation, it's just going to come out again. So maybe an example of not a choke, but someone that on our team struggled with putting, and she didn't really believe in herself as a putter. And she would be so close and she would have these good rounds, and then she would just miss being in our lineup. And she was doing so many things right. And it would get down to putting, and then she'd miss like a 2-foot putt, and she would beat herself up, and then 2 holes later, miss another one, and that sort of thing. And let me just tell you, she was a rock star at our national championship, and she had a storybook ending her senior year, her first time in the national championship. And usually seniors get really nervous their last year, last chance to shine. And she shone brighter than ever because she just had taught herself to let things go. And she became a great putter by affirmation and how she was talking to herself. And she had 2 doubles on the front 9. And then she went 4 under par from the 9th hole on. And she really helped us win that championship. She was such a big part of that story. And it was all through training.
So she just really started to having to believe in herself and her putting and really work on that intentionally. Right. In order to get over that
intentionally,
hurdle.
More intentional. And I talked to her about it too. Like, I'm like, actually before the national championship, when she was having some good rounds, and actually her first time in the lineup, she actually won the tournament. And I was like, okay, you got to tell me, how did you get this done? And she said, I worked on those affirmations. And you can't write an affirmation card down and just say, you're the best putter in the world and not believe it. But she wrote down, like, your hard work is paying off on the putting green. Yeah. Your hard work is turning you into a great putter. So she was telling herself these really good things, and she was doing it like 3 times a day, taking those cards with her. She just owned it. Yeah. And it's crazy because I saw the interview of Matthew Pavone this weekend, who won the PGA event. Is that how you say his name? Matthew Pavone, that just won the PGA?
The amateur in Palm Desert?
No, at Torrey Pines.
Oh, at Torrey Pines. No, I didn't see anything. I didn't follow that tournament a lot this weekend.
Okay. Well, he was so good. He's talked about at the end that he was really feeling the pressure. You know, this was his first win and on the PGA Tour. And he said the announcer or the reporter was asking him, how did you handle? You had these par saves, and then you had this really tricky shot on the last hole over water. He only had a 1-stroke lead. And he went for it. And he said he had notes in his bag, and he wouldn't tell us what the notes were, but he had notes in his bag. And he said he was reading them all day, and he probably read them 100 times in the last 6 holes. And he said, just to give him good feedback that he deserved to be there and he deserved to be in this spot and whatever. And they were trying to get more from him as far as what exactly did they say? But there was no doubt he was giving himself affirmations down the stretch and telling himself, you can do this, you've got this. And he did it. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. And while you writing these affirmations down and saying them 100 times on the last 6 holes is a really helpful tool, you have to do the work on the back ends also. So and again, we're not talking at a college level or a professional level. If you're listening, it could just be going to your club and putting for 20 minutes 3 times a week, and concentrating on distance control or focusing just on those short 3, 4, 5-foot putts, so that when you do get in a competition scenario, you can tell yourself, hey, I've worked on this. Let's figure out the line. Let's step up to the putt and do what we have practiced, and really feel that in your body that this is truth.
Right. And also let go of the result. Mm-hmm. So have like a process and stick with your process and just let go of results. I mean, I talk in the book about how Rory when he won the Open the first time before he turned 25, I saw where his process on the putting green was just to putt over a speck of grass or whatever, a little dot or whatever he saw in the grass in front of his line. And that was his goal, just putt over that, just see it going in and putt over that. And then if he did that, he just let it go. It's out of my control now. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't go in, it doesn't go in. And then you just move on. But that's all I'm judging myself on. I think we judge ourselves too much on, if I miss this putt, that means I'm going to miss the next putt on the next hole. And then and then it snowballs. Yeah. And instead, you have to realize, like, if you did your process, that's the best you did in that moment. And that's what you can control. You take that and just keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I can talk about pressure all day long. I love talking about pressure, but let's move on, because it all kind of has to do with pressure. I mean, getting these mental toughness tips going. Okay, number 3, handling and being prepared for surprises. That means a lot, because again, one bad break, or you can get startled, you can get angry, right. You can get rattled. So how do we handle that? What's the best way to handle that?
Yeah, surprises, Bob Rotella, I quote him a lot in my book. I'm a huge fan. He's the golf sports psychologist guru. And talks a lot about the difference. Well, at least at the college level, the difference is how we handle the surprises. So we try to work I'm giving some more tips out there, but we do try to work on surprises because, we go to the range sometimes and I do this. I make sure like my ball is on the nicest piece of grass.
Absolutely.
And we set it up and then you get on the course and it's like, wait, what a minute, what's this? I have to hit off this, and we're not prepared for it. Mm-hmm. And then we think it's just a bad break and that sort of thing. And so it's just really practicing some things and practicing for the course that you're going to play. So, obviously there in Arizona, you guys have a lot of bunkers. So, being ready for different shots out of bunkers and not just your basic shot, work on some other shots. And, one shot we worked on as a team is the chunk and run. Mm-hmm. And I had a player that really just embraced the chunk and run. And that's where you're not opening the face. You're just trying to get in with the edge, and maybe you don't have the best lie. But that for her was a great visual in her head. And she also knew that if she did that, she could usually get it out of the bunker. So she would just say to me, "Is this a chunk and run?" And I would just say yes. And then she would get it out because, like whatever works.
Exactly.
But practice these different surprises. Where we were really surprised that I talked about in the book was in the 2017 national championship. And that was the first time that we were ranked number 1 in the country in Division III golf. And we went into the championship and oh my gosh, we performed so well. And we had so much pressure on us with targets on our back and the whole thing. And we had the lead going into the back 9. And even my phone, it was buzzing like crazy. I wasn't looking at it at the time, but I saw later all these people saying, "This is so great. You guys are going to finally do it." And I didn't see it at the time. I saw it later, but we had this lead and the wind picked up. And the wind picked up for everyone, right? But it really affected my team. And we really weren't quite ready for what to hit off the tee. And our strength had been our drivers. And some of the players decided to stay with their driver, and they really needed to go like 3-wood or hybrid because it was really gusting. And so we just really weren't, that was a surprise. It was like all of a sudden it's windy. And yeah, so we had to deal with that. And we ended up losing by 2 strokes. It was pretty painful. Yeah. But the wind was the surprise. So just knowing that, like, okay, if the wind picks up, I'm ready. Practice some shots on the range, practice some lower, stinger type shots, or just practice hitting some punch shots and say, you know what, if it gets windy, I can still hit some straight shots and practice my hybrid, and do some things like that make you feel prepared for it.
Yeah. I can only imagine the disappointment the players had after that championship. How'd you guys get through that? And again, we learn the most in losses, right?
In losses,
you just said, you took the surprise of having all that wind, and now you know to practice that on the range and in those situations. Anything else that you really took away from that 2017 championship?
Oh my gosh, I took so much away from that. In fact, this one picture I have over my shoulder with holding up the trophy is not the national championship. That is 2017. So that I'm reminded every day in my office that, part of it is just luck too, like it's one of those things where if this puck goes in and this puck goes in, then this team's going to win. Or in a baseball game, if this guy, can't quite reach it with his glove, this team scores, the shortstop doesn't quite reach the ball, whatever. And so, really in the end, you always have to feel like a winner. If you brought your best to the game, which my team did that day, they brought their best. They gave it their all. They put everything in it. And so in the end, like we walked away as champions and winners and felt really good. It still was painful, but it was like, you're not always going to be at the top of the podium. And as long as you can walk away and just have no regrets. So I look at it as like sometimes, even when we're so prepared and even when we're so ready, you just, you're not always going to get the top trophy. And so just really appreciate what opportunities are there for you and just enjoy it.
Exactly.
But it was still painful. I hate losing more than I like winning.
I know. Me too. Everyone knows, like, I am out there to win. Okay. See, MJ's nickname is Miss Competitive, and I can relate to that. That might be my nickname too.
Yeah, we're right there together. So,
okay.
Anyway, yeah.
All right. So on to number 4, knowing the impact of your subconscious mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow is right. And that's another reason why I'm really being aware of, if I miss a 3-foot putt, like, okay, move on. Yeah. When I chunk a freaking wedge into the water, okay, bummer. Let's find another ball. Like as least amount of reaction as possible. I am really, truly focusing on that right now.
Okay. That's great.
So what else do you have about the subconscious mind?
So subconscious mind, I really use the example in the book of Top Gun Maverick. That movie is incredible. That mantra, don't think, just do, is just all about subconscious. And that's basically what he was teaching his fighter pilots. And if you haven't seen the movie, you should. Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 3 times, I think.
Me too. So good. But, there's just such a lesson in there because the subconscious is just so powerful. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but it is like 95% of what we do. So if we start thinking too much with a task that we've learned, we're going to slow it down. So for example, like, you learn to drive the car and then it's just your subconscious is just really driving. And if you start thinking about, I need to turn my hand this way to turn the wheel, like you're going to go really slow. Like you're going to get in an accident. So just like on the golf course, I know my husband has said this to me before after I've taken a lesson. And let's say I have like 3 swing thoughts. He'll go, MJ, your swing is so slow. And it's just like, I'm just trying to work on this, and then keep my elbow in and I'm trying to get to my finish. And you can't do that. And you really do have to trust. So once you do learn, yes, you do the block practice, you think of those thoughts and you work through them. But I think more than anything, you just have to let go and see the image that you want in your head. And I think the image in your head and that visual is so important. And so if you have a miss out on the golf course, I don't like to call them bad shots. We're like, that was bad. That was good. No, just if you have it's like a miss or just an interesting shot, we call them interesting shots. Then you say, okay, what's that image I want in my head again? And you get refocused, you look at your target and you just see that picture that you want. And it's so much more effective than trying to tell yourself, because all those words you're just going to go really left brain and you're going to slow down and you're not going to be able to do it. And then you're going to think it's just my swing and my swing is terrible. And we're not trusting our innate abilities enough. And I think if we can trust our innate abilities enough and let go of our ego, we can get really good at this sport.
Absolutely. Like almost just let it go. Just
let it go. Let it happen.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let it happen. Just let it happen and control what you can control, which is your preparation and your attitude and your mindset. And a lot of people have trouble with that. Like they'll ask me like, MJ, you're asking me to show up every day in a great mood, in a great attitude, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but that's how you separate yourself, separate yourself. Like even some of your golfers, newer golfers, separate yourself out there. Be like, I'm going to have a great attitude. And it doesn't matter if a shot goes out in the trees, I'm just going to go hit the next one, and just have fun with it. Mm-hmm. And that's where you start really, really improving and seeing what that can do.
Now you brought up newer golfers. So, and this actually applies to everyone. Let's talk about playing with players that you consider better than you, or, lower handicap indexes, or a tournament. Maybe this is your first time playing a certain tournament and you feel like you don't belong. What would you say to that?
I would say stop comparing. Just stop comparing. Comparing just doesn't work. And really, in the end, it's you versus you out there. And so just have fun. It's you versus you. Nobody cares really how you do.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Afterwards, everyone wants to talk about themselves. My husband with me, he always says, bring me in from 18, MJ. I'm not going through all 18 holes. So that's always his line. But yeah, like nobody cares. So just stop comparing, because if you're comparing, you can't be focused, and you can't do your best for the day. So just try to give it your best for the day. And how do you give it your best for the day? You just really live in the moment and you stay with your process and work on your process, and know that if you play with players that are better than you, or, their handicap's lower, I don't like to say better, but that are better golfers than where you're at with your game, then basically just know that and say, this is going to help me, because I'm going to see what they're doing and see where in my game, could I get stronger? And then you start saying, well, wow, like there's not that much difference,
And you
so
see really how they play golf. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you see how a better, more experienced player tackles this golf course. And you watch them and you really see how they are swinging and see what decisions they make. It's really quite fascinating. And you also mentioned this in the book, playing against tougher competition is the quickest way to improve.
Right. It is.
Why would you say that's the case, though? Because sometimes we avoid that. Again, sometimes we start comparing and thinking that we don't belong. Yeah.
Right. Because we get uncomfortable and we don't like that uncomfortable feeling. But if you can push through that, the magic happens outside the comfort zone, right? And so I have such a great visual of like the comfort zone in this circle. And then outside here, there's the magic. That's where it happens. So you have to push outside that comfort zone if you want the magic to happen. So that's what I would say, push outside. And I think the other reason why it's the quickest way is it kind of goes back to that visual. You see the visual, and in your mind, the more you see that visual, the more you can do it. And you start seeing what you need to do instead of trying to tell yourself to do all these things. And you kind of see, oh, look how relaxed she looks. Look how much fun she's having when she gets to the putting green. She just seems like she's so calm, and whatever. You see all those things, and that helps a lot. Yeah.
See how she follows her routine, and with every single shot or with every single putt, she follows this routine, or this is what she's doing. It's interesting. It really definitely is interesting.
I have to tell you my favorite commercial on this note.
Absolutely.
My favorite commercial is, it was probably, I don't know, it's probably at least 10 years ago, but it was a Nike commercial with Tiger Woods. And I thought, this is brilliant. This is so true. It shows like these people on the driving range, and they're just like all hacking it away and hitting it to the right, to left, and they're just bad swings, whatever. Tiger shows up like with a bucket of balls, and he starts just crushing them down the range. And then all of a sudden, everyone on the range starts hitting really good. Have you seen that? It was a long time ago.
I feel like, of course I've seen it.
Something like that, but everyone's like going to his rhythm and they're all hitting great shots. And then he leaves and then it's chaos again. I thought that's such a true.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to search that on YouTube and watch that again.
Me too. I meant to, because I was thinking that coming into this today, that's the visual. Like, how many times have you watched golf on TV or gone to a pro event and then you go, oh my gosh, like this isn't that hard. I've been making it hard because you saw the visual.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime we're watching Nelly Corda's swing, it has to seep in somehow. Come on.
Seriously. I know.
Okay, moving on to highest energy level for best performance. Right. I found this chapter, well, there's multiple chapters on it, but this chapter in particular, very interesting because you said the optimal golf level, energy level, is between, if it's a scale from 1 to 10, I believe you said between 5 and 7, or was it 6 and 8?
I think it's 4 and 6.
4 and 6. Okay, wow. I was way off.
So it's a little calmer. Yeah, 4 and 6, I think. Yeah.
So what do you have to say about energy levels and really figuring out what's the best for you for your performance?
Right. Okay. So I read about that in a book called 8 Traits of a Champion, I believe. And it was these researchers that studied all these sports. And they talked about, after studying all the best, where you sort of need to be in this optimal place in order to perform at your best. And so like for football, it was higher. For football, it was like 7 to 9, but for golf, it was more like 4 to 6. So basically, that's kind of the energy you need to bring. And if you're too hyped up, you can swing too fast. You can have like this poor rhythm because you're so hyped up and maybe, it's just kind of nervous energy. And so you have to bring yourself kind of back down by breathing and finding a way to relax a little bit more before your performance. And if you're too low, you could be like too chilled out and you're not amped up enough to get to that level. So I experienced that on the team because I'm like a 10 on that scale in a bad way. That's like a bad 10, right?
Too hyped up 10.
What?
I said too hyped up 10.
Yeah. And so I'm a too hyped up 10. And so I just kind of assumed that everyone on the team was kind of hyped up. This is before I kind of learned about this optimal level. And so we played this spa music in the van. That was like this, like where you're at the spa and everyone was so chilled when they got out of the van. And that was when we won our first trophy in 2014. And we came in 4th at the NCAA championship. So I thought that music works and it's so perfect. And then the next year I tried it and some of the girls finally said to me, Coach, like we're falling asleep in the van. Like you got to come up with something new. And it just hit me. And then I read about this and that's why I researched and said, oh my goodness. Like I didn't realize, I said, are people out there really too chilled to play golf? Like I am pumped up, but people are like, they can be a little bit too chilled and they're not feeling it as much. And so then they need more, hyped up music and even run in place and kind of get their heart rate going a little bit so I just experienced that in the music. And
it's very individualized energy level.
It's very individual.
Yeah.
Everybody is different for sure.
And that reminds me, your whole book has kind of a musical theme to it. Can you tell the listeners how that came about? I mean, even down to the chapter titles. They're all popular songs, which I love. Music makes me happy. So I love
Thank you.
That. So how did that come about?
Okay, well, music, it's interesting. I just worked out on my Peloton this morning and the instructor said, music is joy. Get into the beat, everyone. Music is joy. And I thought, that's it. Music is joy. That's why I went that direction. But it came about when I was writing that chapter where the styrofoam cooler blew up behind me and I had to pick up the pieces. And I had recently heard that old song, Pick Up the Pieces, on the radio. And while I was writing it, I was like, pick up the pieces. And I just started thinking, oh my goodness, maybe I should start thinking about more music in this book because music is such a big part of our team and in the van and getting ready for tournaments. And I talk about music a lot. And music is joy. It brings joy and it brings you to that really good vibration. So it was really my editor that just said, you're not a sports psychologist. Like our chapters were so boring. I had, emotional resilience, how to be more emotionally resilient, how to follow your process. And we said, no, this is just not you.
Same old chapter.
Same old. Yeah. So we just decided to go the music route because music is magic and music brings joy.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Very, very, very cool.
Oh, I wanted to add this too. I just found this out yesterday. My sister was at her company was at this seminar on how to lower your stress levels.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they talked about is your vagus nerve. If you can do something to get the vagus nerve to relax a little bit, the stress level will go down immediately because the vagus nerve like controls your whole nervous system. And so, I mean, again, I don't know all this that's going on in the body, but I do know that on the list, she sent me the list. And the two top things to bring your nervous system down and to bring your stress down is to hum or to sing. Mm. And I was like, whoa, I love that.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Well, that was a tip I actually heard fairly recently. I was at the Vision 54 camp. So they said, well, they gave it the option of having a song that you sing if something bad happens on the golf course. Like a shot goes not the way you want. Okay, have some sort of trigger that kind of gets you out of it. So I used a song. And again, I have been challenged on the golf course a lot lately. So I have been singing my way through 18 holes. And it works. It does work. It does trigger you to kind of snap out of it, move on.
Right.
So that's very...
Yeah.
All right, let's finish up with number 6, how to build a superpower mindset. So letting go of mistakes, but also learning from them. What do you have on this?
Be patient with yourself and understand that, again, you can't do it overnight, but understand that even like affirmations are to your brain, like protein shakes are for your body. So understand, like Bob Rotella, he talks a lot about, and I'm sure Lynn and Pia do as well. They, talk a lot about how you're not born with this, great mindset. So you can learn and you can learn things and learn, even journaling, writing things down. I have some players right now just writing down positive things because they always focus on what went wrong. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why we do that. We always like to focus on, oh my God, you should see what happened on that 14th hole, Yeah. Why aren't we saying like, do you know what? I almost had a hole in one on the 16th hole or whatever, but I think it's a social thing. I just know, growing up with golf that everyone always talked about, their negative story. And so turn that around and write down positives, do things that are going to help you out there. And there's just so many things. There's, the imagery bubble, there's the meditation, there's writing affirmations. There's just so many things you can do because the brain really doesn't know the difference between rehearsal and the real thing.
Exactly.
And one of my favorite stories is that when Seve Ballesteros won the Masters, he said he practiced seeing himself and he had this whole script written, seeing himself winning the Masters before he got there. And then he said when he was playing in it, it just felt like he'd already done it. And he knew he was going to win. And, not like that's always going to happen, but the brain just doesn't know the difference. Mm-hmm. And so it helped him feel more comfortable for the uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So just keep working on it. Oh, I have one last thing. Can I share?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. This is my last thing. Okay. Just because I have it sitting here on my desk in case it was necessary. But before we went to the national championship, I really believe in mantras. So I say use mantras a lot. I had a girl have a major breakthrough where we wrote down some mantras beforehand. And one of hers was worry is wasteful because she realized she was just always worried. Like, what if I'm not good enough today? So she just wrote down worry is wasteful. So every time I saw her, she'd just be like, Coach, worry is wasteful. And she just she was in this great place all day and she had her career round that day, which was really cool to witness. But before we went to the national championship this year or last year when we won it, I said to my husband, I love chocolate and it's my weakness. And I was like, I'm not having any chocolate, no chocolate until we get this thing done. And so then I said, I'm just going to have one. Okay, just one. He's like, oh, come on, MJ. And I said, oh, I need it because did you know there's little mantras under the wrapper? So these little Dove chocolates.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. I didn't even know that. Like someone just told me that like a couple months before the national championship. So I said, I have to have this because whatever's under here is going to be my mantra going into the national championship. So this is a true story. So I unwrapped it. He goes, I'm not buying it, but go ahead if you need that chocolate. So I unwrapped it and it said, fearlessly authentic. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like, this is a sign, fearlessly authentic. And I said, that's what I'm taking to the national championship. And I said, I'm not even eating the chocolate. That was a sign. And so it really helped me stay in that place of just being me and owning me and not worrying about comparing and all that goes on or feeling intimidated or not good enough or whatever. And I just want your listeners to just be like fearlessly authentic out there because we have superpowers inside of us. Exactly. So bring out your greatness, do great things, realize that, you have a lot to offer.
Absolutely. MJ, thank you so much for being on.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me. It was an honor to talk to you. Oh my God. I feel like I was all over the place.
No, you absolutely were not. And just for the listeners, a little behind the scenes. So MJ and I got so lost in our conversation. I'm in the studio today. And so we only had an hour in the studio and all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, I would have guessed we were like 35 minutes in, but out of nowhere, the 4 o'clock comes in and the studio guy was like, you have to, he gives me the 3-minute signal, like get that fuck out of here. and this was like 20 minutes ago. So I go, MJ, I'm sorry. I have to change seats. And so I had to come into a different studio. So what an amazing conversation. I hope, I know all the listeners are going to love it. Again, we only touched on minute amount of things that are in When Girls Win, the book When Girls Win. And I highly, highly, highly suggest everyone hurry up, go out and buy it, and just allow yourself to soak in all the amazing information and stories that are in this book. The link is in the show notes to buy. And where else, in case they don't go to the link in the show notes to buy, MJ, where else can you grab the book?
Right now it's on Amazon and it's Barnes & Noble. So it's out there. You can just Google it. So,
all right, great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tori. Seriously, I just want to add one more thing. You've given me a lot of attention, but I couldn't have done this without so many other people. The people at George Fox have been so great to me, and I definitely have a village, and I've had amazing players on my team and so much support. And it's really a community that helped us win the championship. It wasn't just me being fearlessly authentic.
Well, and again, absolutely. Cheers to the team. Cheers for you for being such an amazing leader. And, cheers to winning your first championship, but many more to come.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, this was great. I had so much fun. It was an honor.
Fantastic. Okay, we will be in touch. Thank you, MJ, for being on today.
Okay, thank you.